Good afternoon, Mobile County fourth graders. It's me again, Miss Cook, here for another ELA lesson. And the last time I talked to you on last Thursday, we were talking about the potato. That's right. And today we'll be continuing our learning about the potato. Now, I gave you an exit slip, but I also gave you a challenge, and I haven't forgotten. Yes, I will definitely get to that. But first, I want to talk to you and just kind of refresh your mind. I want to activate your mind today on this beautiful Monday afternoon. But before we get to the lesson, again, I want to go over the PowerPoint. But every time I just spend too much time on this PowerPoint. Oh my goodness. But today my goal is not to spend too long on the PowerPoint and really get into the lesson. So here we go. Let's see if Miss Cook can really do my goal and get there on time today, okay? Let's see if you can help me get there, boys and girls. All right, so we're still working on the Critical Initiative Standard, or the Critical Standard, fourth grade, first standard. And remember, boys and girls, we're talking about informational text. So we could talk about technical text, reading for information, any kind of that type of text, okay? So just like you need a refresher, I need a refresher too. All right, so we are looking at inferencing and conclusions, and we are really thinking about that educated guess. We are using information from the text along what we already know and putting it together to really try to figure out what the author is not directly telling us. This is also going beyond what the author has already told us. So just like that little figure at the bottom, that Buzz Lightyear, we're going to infinity and beyond. This is also being referred to as reading between the lines. And remember, boys and girls, many people can have many different inferences and conclusions about the exact same task or question. So don't feel too bad if you don't have the exact same inference or conclusion that your neighbor, maybe your neighbors come over and worked the same problems with you, or maybe your mom's helping you, or your grandma, your grandpa, and maybe they've come up with a different conclusion. You're not wrong necessarily as long as you really are using text evidence, okay, to help you get there. Also remember that informational text, your social studies book, your science book looks much different than your Amelia Bedelia book that you read in second grade, or your first grade Frog and Toad book. It's supposed to look different. Why? Because of the text structure and because of the text features within an informational text. So boys and girls, keep that in mind as well. Hey, I'm doing a good job so far, right? I'm getting through this PowerPoint. See, that was my goal. It's always good to have a good goal in mind, boys and girls. This is really the slide that I feel like, as a visual learner, really helps me remember what I'm supposed to do with conclusions. I'm supposed to take information from the text, as well as what I already know, my great background knowledge. Now, some of you may be 10, some of you may be 9. So what do you already bring to the table? And grandparents, parents, guardians, please share your background knowledge too while you're working with your son, daughter, granddaughter, aunts, uncles, whomever is in the house with you. Please share your background knowledge too, because that even expands their knowledge and expands what they may not already know. So that's even more on this side of the puzzle piece. So why not share that great knowledge? So when you put those together, that really helps you as the reader understand more and go beyond what the author is actually not telling us. Remember, that's like a secret. So always, always, always put your inference or your conclusion to the test by using these just two simple rules, so to speak. One, can I go back in the text and underline or circle where I found it? And boys and girls, just like you're reading your AR books, I know you are, and you're doing your iReady every week, maybe a few minutes here or a few minutes there, that's great, boys and girls. That's great practice. When you're doing that, are you going back in the text and finding that information? I sure hope you are, boys and girls, because that is perfect. Go back in the text and find that information. If you don't know and you say, I just guessed, remember, an inference is an educated guess. So there's got to be something that gave you a clue. Remember, be that reading detective and go back in there. If you don't have any text evidence, your inference might not be accurate. And then secondly, another rule is, does my answer make sense? Well, did I even answer the question that was being asked? And if you remember what I've even said over the last few weeks, do I even understand the question? The first time you read it, you're just really reading it to understand if you even know what's going on. So it may take 2 or even 3 times to really understand what the author is asking you. All right, boys and girls? I think I did a pretty good job on that PowerPoint and didn't spend too much time on it. But I did want to do a nice refresher on what an inference really is. And remember, I'm going to try not to hone in on this too much. The actual standard has text in there 3 different times. So make sure we really are referring back to the details in the, that's right, in the text. Text, 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 3 times. And remember, if someone's going to say something 3 times, they really mean it. So make sure, boys and girls, you are really focusing on the text. And in saying that, let's do just that. Now, last week, we started this text, The Travels of the Potato. And I said a good bit about the potato last week. Now, getting back to that challenge that I gave you on Thursday, did you have a chance to do any research? With permission, of course. If you did, I hope, boys and girls, that you were able to share that knowledge with someone around you. And I hope that you blew their hair back with that information. I hope you made their eyes go wide or their jaw drop, because hopefully you found out a really neat detail that they didn't even know about. Maybe you found out about the French fries or the potato chip and how they came to be. That was very interesting to me whenever I found out those facts. And maybe you found out those type of facts too. Now, last week we read the title of this, and the title of this was The Travels of the Potato. And one of the things that I said is, do not ever, never, never, ever skip the title, because that actually helps you as the reader allow your brain to focus in on what the passage is going to be about. Titles, headings, subheadings are very, very important in nonfiction text. Also, one of the things I said last Thursday were, do not forget about the directions. And even we can see in the text that the directions are bolded. There's a reason why this text feature is bolded. They want us to focus our attention on it. And the directions say, read the first paragraph of a social studies passage about the potato. Social studies tells me that it might be about historical representation of a topic. And in this case, that is exactly what's going on. We also talked about the word travels. Now, we did talk about a little boy or a little girl who traveled with his or her family from Georgia to New York. And actually, boys and girls, that was my very first chance that I got to encounter or be with you. That was my first time being with you. That was a great chance that we got to meet. And guess what, boys and girls? That was kind of an out-of-the-box kind of trip, wasn't it? But that's not what this is about, because we know that nonfiction means true. And a potato is an actual vegetable, isn't it? So we know that this nonfiction passage, we know that the potato didn't get in a vehicle. It didn't get in a type of transportational vehicle like a car or an SUV and drive behind the steering wheel. but it took on a different type of traveling. So we're going to read more about that, in fact, today. And we also talked about figurative language in that it took on a personification role. And that root word, person, means that it took on human-like or personal qualities. And many times the authors will use that to help us visualize it, to help us see what's taking place within the text. That is a great skill. That'll help us go outside the box yet again. So the topic, the directions, the title, all helps us get our minds focused on what's going to take place within the text. Also notice in the directions that it mentioned the first paragraph. Boys and girls, many times we want to take on too much text and overload our brain with too much information. Make sure, boys and girls, that you are stopping at an adequate number of sentences or paragraphs and not overloading your brain with too much information. Stop at appropriate times. It might be a sentence, it might be 2 sentences, but don't give your brain too much. Stop at those appropriate times and allow your brain enough think time and wait time to soak in all of that new learning. All right? So let's go ahead and go back into The Travels of the Potato by Marie Schaefer. Again, this is social studies. So in the first sentence, it says, the potato plant is native to the Andes mountain region of South America. And last week, boys and girls, we actually looked at a photograph of South America because I told you, boys and girls, I am more into a visual learner, and so I want to see what's out. I know we live in North America, so I want to see what South America looks like. I've never traveled to South America. I told you, boys and girls, that this is more of a cartoonish version, but then I wanted to see more of what it looks like, a little bit more into more of geography. And so this is more of what it looks like. And then I wanted to actually see what the actual mountains look like. And so this was one depiction of it. And then I wanted to see what another one looks like. And then there was another view. So just to kind of recap what that looked like. And then that word native, we saw that word native last week as well. And in the next sentence, we actually have a little bit more context clues of what native means. Anytime, boys and girls, you come across a word that you're not as familiar with, think about that word and think about, hey, when have I ever heard that word before? Who did I hear say that word? Where was I when I heard that word? And try to put yourself in those types of settings and where have I heard it? When have I heard it? Who said it? And sometimes that can even remind you what that, or kind of help you figure out what that word means. And then reading on or even behind that word, like the previous sentence, can also maybe help solve what that word means as well. In the next sentence, this is where this, meaning the potato, this is where it first appeared and thrived. So we know that phrase first appeared helps me figure out what the word native means. So a native is where you derive from or where you first inhabit. And that word thrive means and tells me as the reader in the climate of South America was perfect conditions for it to live and grow and be in abundance. When something thrives, that means it doesn't just do okay. That means it grows and does in abundance. So when farmers plant things and there is an abundance in their crops, that means that whatever they did before, they need to keep doing because it's doing super awesome. All right? All right, so we can see in the third sentence that it says the ancient Incas. Ancient. Hey, my grandpa, I know somebody that was playing along with my grandpa not too long ago, and they called him ancient. That might mean old. I hope nobody ever calls me ancient, because I don't know if I'd be too happy with that. Would you want to be called ancient? But, oh, you know what? This means a long time ago. The ancient Incas were the first people known to eat the potato. Oh, so this means a long, long time ago. Oh, and we aren't talking about social studies. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right, so it is an excellent food source, one that provides both energy and vitamins. So this tells me a little bit more about the potatoes and maybe even why the Incas enjoyed eating them and why they continued eating them. So while they were building things and while they were out hunting and fishing and doing other things in their regions, it provided them the energy in order to continue going, and it also gave them the vitamins in order to continue living. Oh, this is really awesome. And do you see this sentence? It is an excellent food source. Well, that is what we call a claim. And we have two details in order to back that claim. And boys and girls, we're going to talk more about this when we talk about our writing standard in a few weeks. But there's two details to back that up, and that is it provides energy and it provides vitamins. And then we see in the next sentence, during the 1500s, Spanish explorers to that region encountered the potato. They had never seen it before. Oh, well, encountered was a new word. And then we see the phrase, never seen it before. So that tells me that they've never been in contact with it. Oh, by the 1600s, now if I'm looking at a timeline or if I'm thinking about sequence, we had 1500, now we have 1600, so that's almost 100 years difference. Potatoes were grown in many places in Spain. I see the word Spanish, and now I see the word Spain, and those look very much alike, and so I can kind of think that they're in the same word family. Oh, Spanish explorers, those are people who explore, and then Spain, that's a country, that's where Spain, so Spanish are people who are from Spain. Oh, boys and girls, I think I figured this out. Because the Spanish people are from Spain, they explored the region. I bet they were like the Incas and they liked the potato, maybe the way they tasted. Yeah. And it provided them with the energy and the vitamins just like it did from the Incas. I bet. You remember that title? The Travels of the Potatoes? The Spanish took some back with them. Oh my goodness. Wow. Look at that. We thought of all of that in just a few sentences. So boys and girls, just like I just dissected and analyzed all these sentences, you will need to do the same thing. So just remember, take these and take them apart, boys and girls, okay? So let's take a look and explore this next question. How did the potato get to Spain? And why was the potato grown in Spain? So we know that the writer does not say how the potato got to Spain or why it was grown there by the 1600s. So we'll need to make inferences. So what we do is we take the details that they give us from the text. So we know that the potato is native to South America, which is not Spain. But we know that the Spanish encountered them there and they saw the potato there. And we know that within the next 100 years, in the 1600s, the potatoes was in Spain. And then we know that Spain is in Europe and a whole ocean is between the Europe and South America. And we know that the Spanish need to go back home. So we know that the Spanish sailed between those continents. And we know, putting all that together, taking the text evidence along with what we already know and putting it together, that the Spanish explorers brought the potato back to Spain, their home country, on the boats that they used to sail crossing the ocean. So do you see, boys and girls, how you can use evidence from the text, what we already know, and put them back together? Now we're going to look at another paragraph. Early on, some Europeans shunned the potato. When you shun something, you push it away. You decide, mm-mm. And when you were a little bitty baby, you may have even put your hand over your mouth. Scientists learned that it was closely related to some poisonous plants. Well, now we know why, boys and girls. You don't want to be poisoned no more than I want to be poisoned. But some European doctors accepted the potato as a medicine and used it to treat some common illnesses. By the early 1700s, potatoes were being raised in England as a food crop. So now it's gone from South America to Spain, which is in Europe, now to another place in Europe. The plants grew well in the cool, moist climate. Soon, the potato became a major food staple, particularly in Ireland. And boys and girls, Ireland is actually, even today, known as this food staple. And in this case, staple is a multiple meaning word. We're not talking about clipping papers together, but we're talking about a chief product or a crop in which the country is dependent on. Finally, in 1719, immigrants from England and Ireland introduced the potato to the New England area of North America. So here's the question. Which of these is most likely the climate of the Andes mountain region where Spanish explorers first encountered the potato? So here's the hint. The climate of the Andes mountain region is probably like England's. So climate is dealing with weather over time. So when we're thinking about weather, where in the passage did it say anything about weather? Now remember, our standard says refer back to the text. So in the text, in the 5th sentence, it says, the plants grew well in a cool, moist climate. So if you're looking warm, nope, that's not cool. Warm, nope. Cool, cool. So we have 2, C and D mentioned cool. And then we have cool and moist. Moist is another word for wet, so we know that our answer is C, cool and wet. Boys and girls, I sure have had a great day with you today, and I hope that you've enjoyed your time with me as well. On Thursday, we're going to read a passage entitled Fruit of the Bog. Now, do you know any fruit that lives in a bog or in water? If you don't, maybe you can talk to someone around you and maybe they have some background knowledge that might be able to give you a little insight. I just want to let you know that we have a few more weeks left together, and so I can't wait to spend a few more weeks with you, boys and girls. Keep working hard. Continue to read your AR books. Get in as many iReady minutes as you possibly can, and enjoy this beautiful, beautiful weather outside. And I super hope that you have a marvelous, marvelous Monday. Bye-bye, boys and girls. Enjoy your time with Miss Weekly as she comes up in just a few minutes. Thank you.